So what's up, everybody? We have another great episode of On Call with Dr. Randy. I'm chilling here with my big brother, who is an artist. He's an entrepreneur. He's a businessman. He's a hustler. Oak Cliff's own Demarcus McGaughey. How you doing, brother?
What's up, Randy, man? Thanks for having me, man.
No problem, no problem. So he's one of the great artists of this time, of this generation. So I want to make sure that I had him on my podcast to talk about his great artwork. So I'm going to let you give a little bit of background about yourself as an individual, like schooling wise, education wise, all the residency stuff. You kind of tell how you want to spill your artist history.
Okay. My name is Demarcus McGaughey. I'm originally from Dallas, Texas, but I basically tell everybody Oak Cliff, which is my neighborhood that I rep. Graduated from Carter High School, graduated from Prairie View A&M University, played Spring 96 Zeta Beta. Shout out to my LB, shout out to the chapter. Thanks for having me, Randy. I appreciate that on here.
You're welcome.
Ended up graduating from Prairie View and took a job in Houston at an ad agency. And ended up moving back home to Dallas and ended up working for Fossil Watches, where I used to design watches for Fossil.
Okay.
Ended up leaving that job and I started my own design firm in downtown Dallas. And I ended up starting a magazine. The design firm was called In-House Media Group and the magazine was called In-House Magazine. And then in 2007, I ended up moving to New York. So I've been here in New York since 2007. And I do freelance graphic design, and I'm also an artist, and I'm also a certified life coach. But I focus in branding because I just know graphic design and I just know entrepreneurship and branding, so I just take the tools and the knowledge that I have with that, and I just support entrepreneurs in, creating the life that it is that they want. I've done, I guess, quite a few artist residencies, and I've completed one in Brooklyn. I just completed one a couple of weeks ago on Governor's Island, New York, and I completed one in Spain, Barcelona, Spain. So I got to spend 3 months in Spain.
Oh, cool.
To live on this vineyard and have this exhibition in Barcelona. And I got to, the opportunity to use my Spanish. I don't get to speak Spanish quite often. I'm in Texas, but I do in New York, and I do when I travel across the world.
You don't get to use it in Texas?
Nah, it's not. Nah, people just, I don't know what it is. Like, you just don't speak it there,
Okay.
But in New York, like, we speak it quite often. And then I got accepted into a residency program in France at Chateau Orcovo, which is in like the southern part of France. And I was supposed to be going in February, but it got postponed to 2022. So
okay.
I'm figuring things out for the year. My 2021 was pretty much already planned out. Solo exhibitions, residencies, and stuff like that. So now I have to kind of figure it all out. I just, God is good. Like, I just finished a solo exhibition at Shiny House in Dallas, Texas. So that was my first time actually showing my work at home.
Okay.
So
That's a big deal right there.
Yeah, man. It was like, I think once you kind of like tell the universe yes, the universe kind of, answers,
So explain to the common folks who don't know art that well, what does it mean to have a residency in art?
So artist residency is, I guess the way that I can explain it is like, it's an opportunity to go to a place and like to create. So you get to create whatever it is that your art is. Different residencies are different. So some places are probably local, like just like your local art community. And it's not necessarily like painting or anything like that. It could be like, if you're like into music, if you're into like dance and acting and writing, it's a place that you can go to create. So you can either get like a studio or a home, and sometimes it depends on like the organization. You can share with other artists or other writers, or you have your own spot. Most cases, I've always had like my own studio space. And
Mhm.
so it also, I think like, I'm kind of going off subject a little bit, but I think like when you create from home or something like that, um, it's hard to create because you're concerned about like bills and the phone ringing and your family's there, you know. But when you have a residency, you have a place to go to, and it's like paid for. So it may
Right.
be like grant funded or something like that. Like you don't have to pay for it.
Mm.
Some of them you do. Some of them like they give you a stipend. You normally have an exhibition after your residency is completed, but it basically is it's a place for you to go to experiment, research, and to create. And for my case, I've been able to like stay in different homes. I've been able, basically, my residencies take me to places that I would never normally be able to
Mhm.
go. The opportunities.
How do you get a residency, like as far as like getting a grant for that type of stuff? How does the funding come through?
Um, that's a good question, by the way. The first residency that I did in Barcelona, um, I applied for it. Actually, it was a friend. This is the power of networking. There
Mhm.
was a friend. She was an artist, and she wanted to go to Spain and be in a residency, and she got accepted into this program. And she didn't want to go by herself. And when she told me about it, I was like, "Oh, wow, that's so dope." I said, "I would love to be, in Spain on a vineyard painting." And she was like, "Well,
Mhm.
I'm glad you said that because I spoke to them about you, and they're waiting for you to submit your portfolio." And then it was like shit became real.
Mhm.
Then I was kind of like, "Oh, I could never do that." My parents live in Texas, and I have clients here. Like I started giving all the reasons on why I couldn't go over there. And so, man, she just really challenged me. She said, "Oh, so you want to play small?"
Mhm.
And I was like, I mean, you got me messed up. Like, I don't play small, like I play big.
You're like,
And
I'm a big
so
boy. Don't you
I'm a
call me
big
small?
boy, you know what I mean? Like, and I ended up submitting and I got accepted. All my other residencies, again, it's like you just apply.
Mhm.
Like, and to be honest with you, when I started painting, I was like you, like I didn't really know about residencies. And then I think all the other artists that I was around that I congregated with, like they didn't know about residencies.
Mhm.
So the more and more I started like opening up my circles, the more and more I was being educated and having awareness on different opportunities and things for artists.
Mhm.
Um, like I used to always think like, I guess especially living in Texas, everybody has like a different mindset, but then sometimes people have like the same mindset.
Mhm.
And in Texas, the one thing I used to always hear was like starving artists,
Mhm.
and I used to always be like, man, I don't want to be no starving artist.
Mhm.
Or it was like my self-worth or my value was very low because I think other people didn't see the possibilities in being an artist.
Mhm.
And then once I came to New York, I got to see like, wow, artists are like really dope and like really respected here. Like you can really make a living off of this. And then when I got to go overseas, man, they treat artists like they treat, athletes in Texas.
Mhm.
So like I remember going over there and meeting this girl and she's like, "Oh, what do you do?" We talking in another language. "Oh, what do you do?"
Mhm. Mhm.
I'm like, "Oh, I'm a graphic designer." And she's like, "Oh, that's cool." Then
Mhm.
my boss was like, "Nah, he's an artist." And the
Mhm.
girl was like, "Oh my God." And and it's like everybody's like, "Oh, he's an artist, he's an artist, he's an artist." So I got to just see the power of what it was to be an artist, man.
Mhm.
So
Right, right. I think sometimes we have to take away that negative connotation that comes with being an artist and pursuing that as a career. I know you kind of mentioned that part as being like a starving artist. And
mhm.
was there ever a time that you were a starving artist, or that has never happened to you and you found ways to not have to get to that point to be starving?
Man, I've had some very low moments. 45 now, and
Mhm.
in my 20s, I felt like I made a lot of mistakes. I wouldn't even really call them mistakes. I would just say I made a lot of choices, and with each choice, there's like a consequence. There's an action or a reaction or a result to the choice that you made, and not all of my choices were good choices, but
Mhm.
I think I guess the word would be, I wouldn't necessarily say starving, but I've had some starving moments. I ain't gonna lie about that.
You've been hungry,
Um,
but you haven't been
I've been,
starved.
I would, okay, but okay, I'll give you this one example or this one story. I remember, man, I literally only had 50 cents to my name. I was
Mm,
living in Dallas. I live in Dallas, like my family lives there. Nobody really knew, like I presented myself well. I had a nice car, I had nice clothes, I was the dude when you go out, like, I buy bottles for everybody. What do you want? What do you want? I got it. I got it.
mm-hmm.
At this particular time, um, I literally only had 50 cents to my name. And I remember one of my best friends when he was alive, he said, I think I asked to borrow some money from him, and he was an artist too. He didn't have any money. And
Mm-hmm.
he was like, D, the one thing I know about you is you know how to generate money. He said, you can generate $1,000 in less than an hour. And when he said that, I was like, all right, how am I going to generate $1,000 in less than an hour? Or how am I going to manifest this?
Mm-hmm.
And we ended up going out. And we ended up going out, and I remember like I got, dressed up. And so I guess it was the whole concept of, you look good, you feel good. And if
Mm-hmm.
you feel good, you attract good,
Mm-hmm.
So we got to this party, and back then this was when a lot of promoters were promoting parties, and got to the door, and it just happened to be one of my clients who I used to do party flyers and stuff for. And they were like, D, they was like, I mean, I walked up and like I felt good,
Mm-hmm.
and people was looking at me like, yo, who is this dude? They was like, oh, that's Demarcus, and blah, blah, blah. And they was like, D, they was like, come on in. They was like, whoever with him. And it just happened to be some younger Zeta Beta bros with me.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't know. And I was like, yo, they with me, like, y'all come on in. And
Mm-hmm.
then the promoter was like, yo, meet us downstairs. And then so I went downstairs with them. They were like, man, they were like, we really appreciate you. They were like, we know that we owe you some money for some flyers that you did for us. Man, I ended up making $1,000 that night.
Man.
Like I ended up manifesting that. But the poor choice that I made was, as an entrepreneur, was at that particular time, I didn't charge deposits
Mm-hmm.
because I was scared and I was timid to ask for my money. I didn't know my value, my worth. And the thing is, I should never be hungry. I should never be, broke. Like
Mm-hmm.
my parents lived in Dallas. My sister, my family, everybody was there, and I could have asked for support, but I just didn't want to ask for support, But the main lesson that I learned was I should never be broke, because it was my responsibility to ask for that deposit, and I didn't ask for it. But yeah, I have had some starting artist moments.
Right, right, right. So, what kind of made you pursue the career of being an artist? Like, I know that, like, you already knew this before you go in there, that thought of the starving artist type deal, but sometimes you just got to push through that to pursue your dreams and what you want to do that makes you happy. So, what made you decide that this is going to be the life that I want to live, living off my artwork?
The funny thing was I never really wanted to be an artist because of the starving artist mentality or mindset. It just, in Texas, it just wasn't respected. Or I would also say, like, my dad didn't even respect it, because going to Prairie View, I was originally going to be a biology major, and so I was
Okay.
going to be a doctor. But I heard this boy say, get out of line and be an art major.
Mm-hmm.
And so I always felt, I didn't know any artists who were like thriving. I always saw like a particular style of artist when I was in Dallas, like painted maybe like slave art, or like family reunion type paintings. That kind
Mm-hmm.
of never really interested me. But it was art.
Like, man,
So
another Harriet Tubman painting?
yeah, like another, yeah, I mean, nothing wrong with it, but it just,
Thank
that
you,
was
Harriet.
all
We love you.
I saw. you know that was it. So I like to paint like inspirational type
Mm-hmm.
things. Positive messages is what I like.
Mm-hmm.
I like, back then I liked comic books.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't realize that there was a genre called pop art at that time.
Mm-hmm.
But I ended up going into advertising because I saw this movie called Boomerang with Eddie
Mm-hmm.
Murphy, and his character was named Marcus. And man,
Mm-hmm.
I had never in my life saw Black people in an ad agency and dressed nice, and so many beautiful women, and and I think I had just pledged. I think I just went over. So
Mm-hmm.
it was kind of like that was when I saw that, I was like, that's the kind of life I want. So I went
Mm-hmm.
into graphics because I was like, I knew I was quick money. I knew I was good at it. And I would look at all my counterparts and, my friends, they would still be painting and I'm doing computer graphics, and it
Mm-hmm.
was a faster process and I knew I could thrive off of it. But to answer your question, um, my friend I was telling you about who talked about I could generate money, his name is Tafiq Muhammad. Tafiq was my best friend in Prairie View, and Tafiq ended up passing away.
Mm. Sorry to hear
Maybe
that.
about like 6 years, maybe about 6 or 7 years ago. No, maybe like 5 years ago he passed away.
Okay.
And I felt like when he passed away, it was the permission for me to start painting. I felt like he passed me the baton, like he gave me permission to like start painting. So I think I kind of did it for like therapeutic type reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had this lady that I met at the time. She owned a gallery, and I didn't know she owned a gallery when I met her.
Mm-hmm.
And then she ended up challenging me to paint something to hang it in her gallery.
Mm-hmm.
And I used that project of creating that painting as therapy, for thinking about him or mourning him. And honestly, man, I think I paint and I do these residencies and all that kind of stuff because he can't or he couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and I think in the process, man, I guess I feel like at times like maybe he's my guardian angel
Mm-hmm.
because I'm doing way more things than he ever did. You
Mm-hmm.
know, he never got to go out of the country. He didn't have his passport. He didn't get to do residencies. But
Mm-hmm.
I feel like he is like maybe speaking my name in rooms and,
Mm-hmm.
whispering my name to people, to give me like opportunities.
Right.
So,
Right. What type of art did he used to do?
oh man, he used to do a lot of, in the beginning, he did a lot of acrylics.
Mm-hmm.
He painted like these very vibrant, colorful paintings. I think that's probably where I get like my color from him. Um, and texture. He used a lot of texture, but he painted like a lot of like black people. But he would paint them and their skin tone would be different colors, like blue or just different, just colors.
Mm-hmm.
And he would paint like icons, like Andre 3000, Erica Badu, Sade, Maxwell, like everybody else
Mm-hmm.
does. But then there was a moment where he never finished from Prairie View,
Mm-hmm.
but he did go back to get his degree years later, and he ended up graduating from Southern.
Okay.
And it's funny we're having this conversation because I thought about it today that he ended up taking this art class and he was way better than his professor.
Mm.
But the thing was his professor had more experience than he did as a professional artist.
Okay.
And I remember him telling me how his professor told him, paint what you see, like paint your life and paint your experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like that was something that he passed on to me because I used to paint a lot of icons. I used to paint
Mm-hmm.
like Michael Jackson and Prince and, Biggie, the same thing that everybody else paint. But it's like if I did a show and hung my work up, it was like there's like 10 other Biggies in here. There's,
Mm-hmm.
two other Sade's and J. Cole's and
Mm-hmm.
Tupac's. So I start painting what I see. So I paint people that I know, you
Mm-hmm.
know. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you think his passing made you like venture out more and do things that you may have been afraid to do previously? Because it's like, well, he doesn't have that opportunity. I'm gonna do it for him.
Yeah, wholeheartedly. I totally agree with that. Like
Mm-hmm.
originally that's how you know what, originally, good question, Randy. Like originally that was how everything went. It was because he couldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
It was like in honor of him. And I think it became a moment where I felt like it was a destiny that has always called me, but I always ran from it because of the starving artist title or label. You know what I mean? Like even now, I would never call anybody a starting artist. I would call them an emerging artist.
Mm-hmm.
I would never say
Different
starting
type of
artist.
synonym.
Yeah, yeah. And it's like starving is a mindset. It's a when I life coach my clients, I always talk to them about the different mindsets. Like there's an abundant mindset and there's a scarcity mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And a scarcity mindset is never enough. There's never enough time. There's not enough food. There's not enough money. You know, when you people say, "Oh man, I wish I had more time," that's a scarcity mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody gets 24 hours in a day. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, what do you do with it? You know, or it's like, oh, I don't have the money to do this. I can't do this. And it's like, scarcity is also fear. So when you say like a starving artist, that's a fearful artist. You know, that's a fearful mentality. But an abundant mindset is you have more than enough. You got more than enough money. You got more than enough love. You got more enough time. Like, and whatever you think is what my experience is. Whatever you think is what you attract.
Mm-hmm.
So if you think in scarcity, you attract more scarcity.
Mm-hmm.
If you think in abundance, you attract more abundance.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah. I feel like it's kind of looking at it like if the glass is half empty or half full.
Mm-hmm.
How
Mm-hmm.
are you going to approach that? So you as an artist, you do a lot of pop art. Like, what
Mm-hmm.
is pop art? If you had to explain to somebody, define what pop art is.
So pop art is like popular culture. So
Mm-hmm.
things that are popular in this era and in this time right now. So it's brands. So you may see like cartoon characters. You may see people do like Mickey Mouse type stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They may do like a cool painting, put a Mickey Mouse in the background or something. Or you may see like comic book characters like Spider-Man or the Joker, or um, you may see stuff like my favorite pop artist is Andy Warhol. He's this
Mm-hmm.
old white guy.
Oh yeah, you've been
He
to this museum
Yeah.
before?
No, I've never been to his museum
Okay.
before.
I've been to it once, the one in Pittsburgh.
Okay, no, I've never been before. But then there's like he did stuff like he did like a lot of brands. So he had like GE and he had like Zenith, you know,
Campbell
things like
soup.
that. Campbell Soup. So
Mhm.
prime example, like I have well, I don't have it anymore, but like I think one of the one of the pieces that I created that most people knew me from was my rendition of my Campbell Soup. And I did a mashup. So I started looking at my work like remixes.
Mhm.
So I did a Campbell Soup painting, but I put Naomi Campbell's face on the cover of it,
Okay.
you know? So it was like a mashup of that. And then it's like, I had this old picture of Run DMC, and
Mm-hmm.
I thought like, yo, who could be a cool Run DMC? And I
Mm-hmm.
ended up making it into Bert and Ernie. I
Mm-hmm.
ended up like selling that. So those are like pop arts type stuff. But now I'm leaning more towards like portraitures
Mm-hmm.
and narrative paintings. Like I paint portraits. So I think because I have that graphic design, you know, background where I used to do party flyers and stuff like that. A lot of my art, I paint people, but I put them like into my concepts,
Mm-hmm.
as if it was a flyer. Um, I love to look at people and I like to see like their facial features and their body types. And
Mm-hmm.
then I love to hear their stories of like, you know, like even like how we doing on the podcast. Like I love to hear this. I think that's the life coach part of me. And I like to hear their, you know, triumph stories, and I like to hear like their low moments, you know, and then I like to paint that, you
Mm-hmm.
know. But then I'm leaning more into like narrative type paintings too. So meaning painting the scene. So like if there's a picture of you and like let's say you was a kid and like you went to Disney World or something like that, I
Mm-hmm.
would take that picture of you from Disney World and I would paint that picture and I would paint everything that's around you. So to to recreate the moment, but also to convey that moment to the people that are looking at it. So people, what are they seeing? Are they seeing like, you know, this little boy's first time going to Disney World, or are they seeing like a family vacation? Or is it somebody remembering when they went to Disney World, or is it someone who never went to Disney World and always wanted to go?
Okay. Okay. So let's kind of stay on that pathway right there. So let's
Okay.
narrate this situation. So
Okay.
first question, do you remember what was the first pop art of work that you produced that you put on display?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I still have it.
Mm-hmm.
It's called State of Mind,
Mm-hmm.
and wow, I've never really talked about this painting before. I still have it. It's pop art, but it's kind of, I don't know, conceptualized type art a little bit. I'm not sure,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a painting of this guy. He has like a bunch of color in his face. He has like a lot of textures on. It's black, but I painted his face, and he has a bunch of color in it. And he has this crown on his head. He has a bunch of white words all around it.
Okay.
It's called State of Mind, because the guy represents a king, like a black. Well, really, he represents like a black man, but the crown is his king, and all the words around him are like different ways of being. They're different, like characteristics or things of a black man. And the funny thing about it is, again, you paint your life. You paint what you see. You paint what you know. The image is actually one of my line brothers. I used his face for the image, but all the words that are around him, they represent a different line brother off my line. But they also represent, and I chose that because they inspired. At that time, they definitely inspired me. I was like one of the youngest ones on my line, and they were. I think I always looked at them in like this big brother type role figures. But then also just those ways of being, or just ways of being of a lot of black men that I knew. Do you know what I mean when I say ways of being?
No, break that down.
Okay, so ways of being, there's some people would say they're characteristics, but it's like how are you being? Not necessarily how you doing, but how are you being? So it's like if someone is like loving, they're being loving. If someone's compassionate, they're being compassionate. If someone is being angry, they're being angry. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, but what we would so in a life coach standpoint, like when I talk to people, it's like it's this phrase that we have, like be, do, have. If you be it, you can do it, and if you can do it, you can have it. So it's like you want to be a doctor. So it's like it's like, who does Randy have? And I use this with a lot of like goal strategies and stuff too, like setting goals. It's like, yeah. Well, I'm not about the life coach you, but it's like sometimes I ask myself, like, well, who do I have to be to get what I want? So it's like, who does Randy have to be? Not necessarily what does Randy have to do, who does Randy have to be in order to be a doctor or to do the things as a doctor? And so I kind of tell my clients, like, ways of being, for me, they're kind of like superpowers. So imagine a superhero. So it's like, who do you have to be to get a job done or to get something done? So it's like the Flash, he runs fast. So that means he has to be urgent with all his goals, everything like that. Superman, like, he's fast as well, but he's strong. So it means like you have to be strong-minded, or you have to be strong. You may have to be a leader. Batman, like, he's cunning and he's ruthless, and he's smart, so it's like, I have to be smart, I have to be cunning, I have to be ruthless in order to get these goals done, or to get this painting done, So ways of being. So basically, to bring it back to the painting, there's different ways of being that black men can be, or they have been, within this painting.
Right. So what words are around the male figure in that painting? If you can remember the top of
and I just had it. Here it is. It just like, I do know, like, one at the top does say State of Mind, because that's the name of the painting. But then there's like gifted, there's powerful, there's notorious, leader, loving, respectful, like a man, a son, a father, educated, a husband, creative, faithful, prayerful. There's just all these different things. And I do, now it's funny that I'm looking at it. It was actually, I don't know if you were there at that time. It was actually around the time that Sandra Bland died. And I remember, were you there?
I was kind of around, I wasn't there when she died, but I was probably at the school with her around the time when she was going there.
Okay. And I remember I ended up putting Black Lives Matter on that painting.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember showing it to this curator. He was a white guy, and
Mm-hmm.
he said, "I love the painting." Because I was like, do you want to put it in your gallery? And he was like, "I would love to carry this painting." He was like, "But could you take off Black Lives Matter?" And I was like, "You crazy?" And I was like, "I'm not taking it off." And so he said, "I think it's over." And that was like years ago. And he was like, "I think it's overrated."
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, "No, I'm not taking it off." I was like, um, that's the first time I kind of ever really heard Black Lives Matter, or maybe I took it like that serious. And I was like, no, I was like, I don't know her. I was like, but man, she went to my school. She's a Panther. Like
Mm-hmm.
she walked the streets that I walked. She drove the street that I drove. So I was like, it was like an honor for Sandra Bland. So I was like, no, I'm not taking that off.
Yeah, it was hard kind of seeing that video as far as like seeing the road that you and I have both driven down many times before,
Mm,
and just knowing that that could have potentially been us at any time, just going down that road on a regular day, because we kind of know what it's like living around that area that we went to school at. So just to go back to like what I was trying to get you to go on a little bit was the narration. So
mhm.
you mentioned what was your first picture. If you were to narrate the first time that you put that on display, like, and you had to paint that out, what would that look like? Like, would it show you being nervous, anxious, being excited,
Mm.
the atmosphere that you were in? If you had to put your own, like, do your own self narration, what would that be?
I remember, man, I was so nervous. It was the first time I ever showed a painting.
Mm-hmm.
And she asked me to paint one painting, and I think because I'm such an overachiever, I ended up painting two.
Mm-hmm.
And the gallery is called Heath Gallery. It's in Harlem,
Okay.
and the event was called Hang Night. And the way the Hang Night goes is the artists show up, and you wait in line. You wait for the gallery to open, and then once the gallery opens, it's like a free for all. You go find a space to hang your artwork, and then you talk about your art for the night. And I remember getting there and having these two big, large pieces, and I had it flipped around so nobody could see what my art looked like. So, of course, there was like a bit of hesitation and nervousness and anxiety and and competition, because people was trying to look to see what other people's art looked like. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember hanging up these two pieces, and I remember them passing the mic around to each artist. You had to speak about your art. I had never shown my art. Yeah, I never spoke about it. And I just remember like being nervous, man, and just talking about these two pieces. And talking about your art, it's vulnerable because they're your personal stories, and it's like I was always a very private person. So it was kind of like I was letting people into my world,
Mm-hmm.
and I think always I was kind of like a defensive type person because I was one of the people like my family taught me like what goes on in the house, stay in the house. You don't talk about your problems, mental health, anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so speaking about the pieces and then hearing like seeing how people reacted to it, like this, I'm so like the other piece is sold. It's been purchased like maybe 2 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
but this particular piece, it trips me out that it hasn't been sold yet. But I feel like it just hasn't the right buyer hasn't found it yet.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard how this particular piece is also kind of like supports people with like mental health.
Mm-hmm.
It like empowers people. I didn't realize when I was creating this, like how it empowered people, how it empowered, like it gave Black men um, hope,
Mm-hmm.
it gave them like motivation and inspiration. I haven't sold the original, but I've sold canvas prints of this where it looks like it's the original. And
Mm-hmm.
then I've also sold out of my 11 by 14 prints because a lot of parents buy it for their young boys, for the young sons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, okay, that's very interesting. Can you kind of go back into like as an artist, because I've written a book and so I kind of know about that artist aspect, how kind of scary that is a little bit to let that out into the world, something that you've been working on and hoping that other people see it as great as you do and hopefully getting some of that good positive feedback, like, oh, that is a dope piece of work, but then also dealing with the negative aspect of like, nah, I'm not feeling that?
You know, the one thing I realize now is like I'm not for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's some people that I felt like I've like submitted to a couple of galleries and museums back at home in Texas,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't get accepted. But I think that's because one person curator told me that they just didn't know what to do with me because
Mm-hmm.
they wasn't used to my kind of art, like pop art. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
They were used to like like the Harriet Tubmans and the slave art. You know, they wasn't used to this. They'd never seen anything like it before.
Mm-hmm.
Even like the sweatshirt you got on, you know, with like I do the fashion and with the, you know, I put it on the bunny rabbit. That was like my spirit animal series that I did.
Mm-hmm.
Like people that I knew never really had seen art like that before.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so putting it out at first, yeah, it was scary. I analyzed a lot, but I
Mm-hmm.
think I approached my art like a graphic designer back then.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I felt like I was painting dope art, likable art, but the scary part is now I'm getting more personal.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's like I'm telling story. Like I used to tell other people's stories. Now I'm telling my stories.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the part that's vulnerable. That's the part that's scary.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and it doesn't really, I feel like even if critics say, oh, I hate it, I know I got a support system of people that's going to, or community of people that's going to be like, yo, he's dope. I love his work. You know what I
Right.
mean? Because I
Mm-hmm.
have buyers and they come back and they purchase, you know, other pieces. But it's the part when I have to tell the stories.
Mm-hmm.
If I tell a story about a particular painting, it's like, how do you know that painting? I mean, how do you know that person?
Mm-hmm.
And where were you when you met that person? You know,
Mm-hmm.
and then it becomes like people maybe projecting their own life
Mm-hmm.
because everybody sees something different. You know what I mean? Um, it becomes a lot of that. You know, that's the part that's you know you that you're like, or that I'm like, you know, nervous about it. But there's a part that I always tell myself like, just trust my dopeness. You know, like even if I got like a bad review or whatever, I know that there's somebody out there in the world that needs to see this painting or somebody that loves this painting. I don't even care what the reviews or anything are because it's like I know that there's somebody out there like this like my paintings that I painted in Spain. I painted those in like 2019. And when I came back from Spain, people were just like, nah, that ain't it, Demarcus. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like now it's 2020. I'm damn near sold out of all my paintings. I had to create like all new stuff. All this stuff is like gone. My inventory is like gone.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I had to create all new work. So it's like sometimes it's just a matter of you know, when and where. You know, I
Mm-hmm.
always tell my life coach clients that our talents and like our talents are tied to someone else's life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's like for instance, like you know, writing a book. You know, like there I have people who want to empower women, and but they like sit on their butt and they don't like write their book. And I'm like, the longer it takes for you to write that book and publish that book, the longer it takes for that young lady to get out of that abusive relationship.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Free.
because she doesn't have your book yet. You
Mm-hmm.
know, the longer it takes for you to create that app, the longer it's going to take for somebody to be an entrepreneur.
Right.
You
Right.
know, the longer it takes for you to be a doctor, go to like, you know, medical school, the longer it's going to take for somebody to get that new heart,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So it's kind of like how dare people be selfish with their talents and with uh, the gifts that they possess. Like,
Yep.
how dare you sit on it?
Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree because that's what I try to tell other people. Like, you don't realize how much you doing something inspires other people by you just reaching your dreams that like me writing my book. it's encouraged other people like, oh, I've always wanted to do this. Let me reach out to Randy. Like he can maybe teach me how to write a book, or just other industries that, oh, I've always thought about writing a play. Like I'm gonna write this play because Randy can write a book. Like if he can do it, I know I can do my stuff, which is pretty much the same thing. Like people just have to get over that scary fear. And then it's also like what you said, a lot of things are very personable to people. And it's hard sometimes telling your personal story because you feel like you're going to be judged, or you opening yourself up so much that it's definitely scary to do that. But to get your message out there, you just have to kind of get over that hump and not worry about necessarily everybody's opinion of everything.
I agree. Some that you said was spoke to me. A lot of times people are scared to do things or put things out because of the people that they are surrounded around. So when I talk to people, I always say, like, look in your phone and who are in your favorites folder. And it's like, who's the last person that you talk to? Like your top 5 people that you're around or that you hang around, you end up becoming that. So if they're scary and they're not empowering, or they're not entrepreneurs, you can't talk to them about being an entrepreneur because they don't know what it's like to be an entrepreneur. You know, you can't talk to them about being a millionaire because they're not a millionaire, because they don't know what it looks like. And so it's like, you need to surround yourself around people who are doing certain things. And one of the things I had to learn was all of the things that I did, like when I was younger, my family, my line brothers, they weren't my audience. You know, my talents weren't serving them. My talents was better serving other people. You know, like people in Dominican Republic, you know, people in Spain, you know, people in Italy. Like I'm this dude from Oak Cliff, Dallas. You know, nobody in Oak Cliff was doing that. I had no one to speak to about things like that. And even going off to college, you know, I'd speak to my line brothers. I mean, we all had a conversation, and I remember them saying, you know, Demarcus, you used to ask. Let's just say this. I was very insecure when I was in college, very insecure. And I used to ask my line brothers for advice on everything. And they came back to me now that we're older. And I remember them saying, like, Demarcus, like, you had visions of things that we just didn't know. You would ask us our opinion. We'd be like, man, that's stupid, you know? But it was like, yo, I'm like, how the hell I'm gonna ask you? You never even done this, you know what I mean? And I'm listening to it. So it's like a lot of times, like, you know, you go to your husband or to your wife and you ask questions and you want their opinion or you want their like validation. They're not your audience. So it's like, you have to know your audience. If you are wanting to empower women, you have to find a circle of women that are empowering. You know, you can't ask no battered chick, you know, about some empowerment because she's depressed and she's down on herself. And some message you said, even about writing the book and teaching people how to do a book, by you writing, it's a domino effect of what I learned. By you taking the risk and writing that book, there's a result of something else. As a result of that, like, you have your podcast. As a result of that, you now have a platform for other people to come onto your podcast and to, you know, spread their experiences to the world.
Right.
You know, and you got a book, you got a podcast, you know, it could turn into a TV show. Like there's like opportunities happen because you took the first step in doing the book. You know? So it's that, you know, yeah.
You never know what's gonna happen just based upon like certain things that you do. Like something that's very simple, like me writing the book. This girl I've known my entire life, her son has autism, and he started reading the chapter numbers in my book. Like she sent me a video of him just counting each chapter number, and that like brought tears to her eyes because he's starting to talk more. He's doing better with his numbers, and just happened to be that out of all books she had laying around in the house, that he liked my book and just started seeing the numbers and just going through that. So I would never thought like, oh, me writing this book is gonna help some child who has autism learn how to count. Like, imagine the other things that people kind of just sitting on their ideas that can help others. Right. So, just a quick question about you as an
Yeah,
artist. How
man,
do you
congratulations.
appreciate? How do you sharpen your skills as an artist?
Um, I think I just, oh man, good question. I think I just do it all around. I never stop learning. Like
Mm-hmm.
even today, I watched like two documentaries on like two different artists one artist that I love, another artist was somebody that I just want to learn more about him and his process. Um, so I never stopped doing that. I always applied to like workshops. Like last night, I did a workshop where they talked about like artist grants. That
Mm-hmm.
was something that I didn't know. And because I did that, I ended up, DMing the guy who
Mm-hmm.
put the work together, and he invited me to this presentation only for residency opportunities, exhibition opportunities. And I got that because I took the step in contacting this person and thanking him, for
Mm-hmm.
his time, you know. Um, so it's like I never stopped learning. I think the only thing is I might need to like maybe learn some new techniques. That's something that I might need to do as an artist. But I think I always approach everything like a business owner,
Mm-hmm.
like an entrepreneur. And so it's like, how can I sharpen my skills, I guess, as a business owner or as a life coach, as an example to other people. But I think when it's pertaining to my art, not necessarily the technique, but more of like, what am I putting out into the world? You know, um, like even like just to go back real quick, like even like on like your book is changing lives.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like like I don't know if you get it and if other people get it, but like it is literally changing lives. And so it's like even with my art, I didn't I want to continue to change lives.
Mm-hmm.
I want to tell, I want to be a storyteller, Mom.
Mm-hmm.
That process of me sharpening my skills with that is I want to dive deeper into my process.
Mm-hmm.
I do love pop art. I think it's fashionable. I think it's cool.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I wanted to dive deep. Like, what stories do I want to tell? I want to tell stories of different places where I traveled, different people that I met. I looked in old photo albums when I was a kid, and I used to have a big wheel and a green machine. And
Mm-hmm.
then pictures of my parents before they were married, when they were in college. What kind of clothes were they wearing,
Mm-hmm.
and what their styles were. I want those stories now. I want to tell those stories. So I think that's how sharp.
So what do you see as like the value in art? Like, why should people buy art?
Man, there's a couple of things. Some people buy art because of emotions that it evokes into them. Some people buy art because it makes them feel good. It may motivate them. Some people may buy because of like it reminds them of a memory or an experience that they had. Some people may buy because they want to touch it.
Mm-hmm.
Some people may buy because they're just a collector and they're a collector of things. And so they just want to be able to say that they have it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think there and are there's also like what's known as a flipper. So some people want to invest in it and then flip it and make like more money off of it. So it's almost kind of like if you bought one of my pieces and I go on to be like a $1 million artist or a $1 billion artist and you own one of my pieces, then it's like you can flip that and make 10 times more money than what you paid for it.
Right.
You know, everybody has their own different reasons why they buy art. Some people buy just to support artists,
Mm-hmm.
but I think I'm really appreciating. It's funny that you're asking this too, because I'm an artist and I just started collecting art myself. I just started my collection.
Okay. Okay.
So the things that I've purchased because it makes me feel a certain way.
All right. Tell everybody where they can get your art from.
You can DM me. You can always because my name is very hard to spell. So let's just say if you just Google Demarcus MCG, you can find me on there. So you can go on Instagram. It has my website. Um, there's a website called sachiart.com. I have art on there. There's Sonny House Gallery in Dallas. But for the most part, if you just type in Demarcus MCG, my name pops up and my website, everything pops up. That's the easiest way.
Okay, cool. So we're gonna make sure we put that on the video aspect of the podcast, your IG information and your website on the bottom. We're gonna bring back Demarcus for Randy's random questions, the fun part of the interview. So y'all make sure y'all stay tuned for that part. All right. So let me text my homegirl right quick to let her know that, because I got one more interview after you, to let her know I'm coming. Let's see.
Okay. Wow, you banging it out.
Yep. Trying to record in bunches.
Okay, yeah, that's smart.
20 minutes. All right, you ready?
Okay.
Let me put my questions back over here.
I'm curious about these questions. I remember.
Oh yeah, I know. This is when everybody be getting real nervous. Like, what does he have up his sleeve? All right, so we got Demarcus.
I'm like, damn, I just got musty.
So we got Demarcus back for Randy's random questions. Are you ready to go?
I'm ready.
All right, you look nervous and excited at the same time period. All right, so question number one. You're on an island. You're by yourself. A helicopter comes over the island. It can only give you 3 materials that you need to be an artist. What 3 materials do you want this helicopter to drop below to you?
3 materials to be an artist. Wow, good question. Oh shit. Damn, Randy. Could I say a computer?
Yeah, okay.
Okay. I would say a computer. I would say a computer.
Okay.
And I would say Wi-Fi. And a package of pencils.
Okay. Why those 3 items?
As long as I have a laptop and a Wi-Fi, I can have unlimited inspiration.
Okay.
Pencils I could use to like sketch or use them as tools to do anything. I could find materials on the island to create art with.
Okay. Yeah.
That's a total entrepreneur question, by the way.
Okay. Yep. Sure is. I know who I'm talking to. We're gonna drop you on Galveston Island, Capitol Beach Park. Yeah. If you could put one of your pieces of art anywhere in the world, any type of situation, where would you put the piece of art, and which piece of art would it be that you have? Like, for example, like the picture that you have behind you, if you wanted to put that on a billboard as people drove into Dallas to see your work of art as soon as they come in, if you wanted to hang it up in the White House, where would you put that piece of art, and which one would you pick out of all the pieces that you've made?
I would want to put it in the Louvre in France.
Okay.
In Paris. And I don't think I've created the piece yet.
Okay.
I think it would be, I'm going to get in trouble on this one. Let me go on and be safe and say it would probably be a painting that I want to create of my dad and myself.
Okay. All right. That's some good ideas and good paintings right there. If I say Oak Cliff, what do you say?
I would say there'll never be another place like this.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of people would say that's my hood,
Mm-hmm.
but there was a song when I was younger by Nemesis, and it would say it's the Oak Cliff. There, you'll never see another place like this.
What's so special about Oak Cliff?
Oak Cliff is uh, um, the it's a place that taught me how to be a man. It's a place that raised me to. And Oak Cliff is just like it's a place where it's like the best of the best are there.
Mm-hmm.
There's like the best athletes. They were like good looking people. They were like accomplished black people. Growing up, my experience of Oak Cliff growing up was Oak Cliff was definitely the neighborhood that you wanted to live in. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it was like all the big houses. It was all the educated, you know, family, the parents. It was all like the talented kids. You know, the football players, the basketball players, the fashion. Like Oak Cliff just had like a fashion to it. The cars, like it was almost kind of like a little Baldwin Hills, you know, but in
Okay.
Dallas. And it was like all the black kids had like brand new cars, like BMWs and, you know, cars with rims on it, you know, music. It was magical. You know, I think at that time I didn't know growing up, I didn't know my place there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I didn't know my place there. But like I traveled all around the world and I had never seen another place like that,
It's
you know.
only one Oak Cliff.
Yeah. You know, and the funny thing about Oak Cliff is Oak Cliff is a place that you can say and people know it around the world.
Mm-hmm.
I When I was in Spain, I painted this painting, Miss Oak Cliff,
Mm-hmm.
and I painted an image of this young lady and she wore a sash that said Miss Oak Cliff.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so funny in Spain, somebody knew what Oak Cliff, they knew where Oak Cliff was. In
Okay.
Spain, in Barcelona, Spain, somebody walked into the gallery and they knew of Oak Cliff, Texas.
If you had to send a message back in time to young Demarcus who switched from being a potential biology major to being an artist, what would you send back on that message?
Uh, oh man,
Are we getting deep here?
very deep. Um, hmm, being authentic. Being authentic, I would say, fuck. I would say put the pills down. I would say you have an amazing life to live. There are people in the world that are waiting to meet you. There are people in the world waiting to love you. There are people in the world waiting for you to decide to do better and be better. And one day you will impact this world and you will activate people's spiritual gifts.
That's a good message right there. Good message to young Demarcus. And what message would you leave for yourself now if you look back on this podcast and listen to it in the future? I should say like 15, 20 years from now. What you want to tell future Demarcus?
That's a good question. I ask people that when I paint them too.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, congratulations, you did that shit.
that's a that's a good simple message right there to future Demarcus. Yes, yes.
Be proud. Be proud of what you accomplished. You did that.
Stop throwing bows all the time. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, yes. But all right, we're gonna let you off the hot seat. I appreciate you sitting down for Randy's random questions. See, it wasn't that bad. You can
Man,
relax
thank you, Randy. I appreciate that. That really, I've never shared this story with anybody. Well, I've shared it once before, but in a closed setting. I've never shared that ever.
now. Mm-hmm.
My parents probably don't even know that, but I thank you, man. And I believe in, thank you for asking me that question because I believe like the universe sends the right things at the right time. And again, like we are all here like to change lives. You
Right.
know, people may look at me right now and be like, yo, he got it together. He's always had it together. And there was a time where I didn't, you
Mm-hmm.
know, so I have something to think about for the rest of the day.
Good, good. I'm glad we had a good conversation. Hope to bring you back on in the future, bro. We could talk about some more stuff. I know you got a lot of business ventures. I have more questions that I want to ask you, but we couldn't get into all of it. But I feel like we had a good conversation tonight.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you, and I appreciate you being a yes for the world, and I appreciate all that you're doing for the world, empowering everybody and using your gifts and your abilities to make the world a better place.
Amen. Amen. Appreciate you too, bro. We'll catch you next time. Stay safe out there.
All right, appreciate you, man.